U.S.-Ukraine rare trillion-dollar chess game not yet over. Late on April 18, First Deputy Prime Minister of Ukraine Yulia Sviridenko and U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent signed the first document in the framework of negotiations on the trillion-dollar mineral resources that Kyiv owns underground. Although it is just a one-page political memorandum without specific financial details, it marks an important step in the effort to promote a comprehensive agreement between the two countries. According to sources of European Pravda, the U.S. wants to sign this memorandum. Minister Bessent or even U.S. President Donald Trump seems to want a clear achievement before the Easter holidays as a step forward in U.S.-Ukraine relations. However, this document gives Kyiv some significant tactical advantages. Most notably, for the first time, the memorandum mentions that U.S. military aid is directly linked to the 1994 Budapest Memorandum, a document in which Ukraine gave up its nuclear arsenal in exchange for security commitments from major powers, including the U.S. This provision could help Ukraine counter Trump's demand for return of aid in upcoming negotiations. In addition, the memorandum makes it clear that the future agreement must not conflict with Ukraine's current and future obligations to the EU, the IMF, or other financial institutions. The U.S. pledged to respect these international obligations of Ukraine in the process of drafting the agreement, a point that Kyiv considers a tactical success. There have been concerns that the U.S.'s desire to control Ukraine's minerals could make it difficult for Ukraine to negotiate EU membership. If Kyiv can negotiate this provision, it will have a basis to ensure that its entry into the European Union is not hindered. However, one point of concern is the short deadline. The two sides expect to report on progress by April 26, with the aim of signing it shortly thereafter. However, according to European Pravda sources, the detailed agreement is still far from the finish line. With Easter approaching, completing the negotiations in just 1 week is almost impossible, unless Ukraine makes complete concessions, which is unlikely after the recent tense negotiations. Notably, the negotiation process has changed several times. Initially, the U.S. proposed a two-phase process, a framework followed by a detailed agreement, then unexpectedly skipped the framework phase and sent the full draft straight away. But in mid-April, Washington returned to the two-phase model, and the memorandum was the initial result. While the memorandum does not contain financial details, one notable provision is that it links U.S. aid for the first time to Ukraine's contribution to global security, through the country giving up its nuclear arsenal, which was once the third largest in the world. This implicitly sends, if Washington wants Ukraine to reimburse it for the aid it has provided since 2022, Kyiv can propose a valuation of the nuclear arsenal it gave up after the collapse of the former Soviet Union. Alternatively, both sides can acknowledge that both Ukraine and the U.S. have contributed to world peace, and neither will demand repayment from the other. However, both of these scenarios are unlikely to happen, given that Mr. Trump has an America First view and will do everything to ensure Washington's security interests. Although the memorandum does not directly mention the return of aid, it is still a major obstacle. Ukraine has firmly rejected Trump's proposal that Kyiv share future profits from its mineral resources in order to return the military aid it has received. The Memorandum of Understanding signed on the evening of April 18 may not be legally or financially binding, but it has profound political significance. For the U.S., it is a diplomatic achievement. For Ukraine, it is an opportunity to put strategic interests into a negotiating framework while maintaining red lines in the face of pressure from Washington. However, the two sides still have many points to negotiate, and this tug-of-war is unlikely to end quickly.